who will pick you based on a highlight reel. Sorry, highlight reel might get my interest, but I'm going to watch your game tape. And frankly, when I watch your game tape, I'm watching it in a different way than most people are. Now, most people don't know this, but before I coached, I had no idea I was going to coach. But I did my dissertation on the NFL's use, and I got interested in that test because I took a class or got certified or whatever you want to call it. I went through Sport Management Worldwide's Scouting and General Management course, because what I knew is I was having players who were getting ready for the NFL draft who wanted to talk to me about the draft process. And though I had a lot of great football experience, I had never been through that process, right? Like that was not. So how was I going to coach you on that process when I had never experienced it, either as a player or a scout? Like, I don't do that. Like if I'm going to help you with it, I need to know it. So I signed up for this course, and, I already had my master's in sports psychology. And I thought, this is a better way. Like I didn't want to be a scout, but I wanted to understand the process so that the athletes I was working with, I could really actually give them good insight. And the scout, really fascinating. They tell a scout that what you're supposed to do in a sheet of paper, right, front and back, is I should be able to tell you the story of a player, right? And that story is quantitative, like the draft or the combine takes about this much, right? Those are just numbers. But the other part of the scouting report is like literally writing the player's story so that somebody who reads it. And I remember one of the scouting reports I wrote was like, it was a running back, and gosh, I wish I could remember his name right now, but he was a local Texas guy, and a lot of people were upset that he didn't get invited to the combine, right? And they thought he could, he was better than that, and this, that, and the other. And so, of course, being local, I was interested, and I decided I would, really study this guy, get his game tape, and see what was up. And they were right. When he got the ball, he was fire. And yet what I started noticing, looking at it from a defender's eyes, which is what I am, is that I knew when he was getting the ball. He was so disinterested when he wasn't getting the ball that he was telegraphing the plays, which meant to me, he was like fire and ice. And as a coach, I'm like, well, I don't want you. You're selfish, right? Like he was a tale of two cities. Now, does that mean that a team couldn't have taken him and made him a great blocker or someone who was as good for his teammates as he was for himself? Maybe, but he's not at the top of my list. And I remember I rated him a 7th round draft pick or, a free agent pickup that a team could try, but I wouldn't invest, a high draft number on him. Like he's a maybe to me. And when they asked me about it, I remember my instructor really pushed me, right? Like, oh, everybody says this. And I said, well, they can say whatever they want to, but when I look at that film as a defender, I can tell you that I know if he's getting the ball or not, and have cut down their playbook, and I'm not impressed. I think he could be okay. When he gets the ball, he's fire, but he has to sell me. If he can't sell me, then there's no way he's going to sell guys in the NFL. And I remember we finished and the instructor was like, man, that was awesome. He's like, I had to push you because there's a saying in, the meeting rooms of NFL teams. And, I'm sure it's the same with college and every other locker room or coach's table that you want to talk about is for a guy. And that's the test, right? Would you bet on your evaluation on this guy. And that'll determine how valuable your insight is to a team. Or will you, as soon as I push you on your evaluation, be like, oh, well, maybe you're right. Oh, well, maybe you're right doesn't help anybody, because then they feel like, oh, I got to go watch all the tape again, right? And he said, I had never, and I was the first girl to take that class. I remember I got a call from of sports management worldwide when I signed up, and he was like, I always told everybody we would get a girl. And he was like, I'm so excited that you're here. I just want you to know this is amazing and so important. And I was like, they've never had a girl, right? Like, it never even occurred to me that they wouldn't. But my instructor was a same thing, said I had never had a female in my class before. So I didn't know if you would stand on the table for your guy, for your evaluation. And he was like, your defense of your report on him was so good. I would want you evaluating players and responding just the way you did. So to all of you players that you're looking at, how will you add value? First of all, think of your highlight reel as the sizzle, but your game tape is the substance. And the substance of your game tape is not only what you do when you're on the ball, it's what you do after you had a bad play. Right? How mentally tough is he? Is he going to, he got his butt whooped by that same guy. Is he going to come back at that guy, or is he going to run away from him? Like, how is he going to respond? What does he do on a bad play? Right? Does he have a short memory as a DB? Can he come back and get burnt and make a pick? Right? They're going to watch all of the things that you think maybe isn't highlight reel worthy, but to a coach, that's what gives us the difference between, one player and another. Anybody can have a great catch, right? As a receiver, that's your job. I want to know if you block, frankly, because every receiver needs to catch a darn ball. That's why you're out there, right? But if you're not willing to block for other receivers, then I'm limited in what I can use you for in my scheme as a part of my team. Also, what is your mentality on special teams? Okay? Because special teams is one that comes down to. And I've been in meeting rooms on this, okay? You're looking at your board on who's going to make your team, right? I'm going to go back to my time with the Atlanta Legends because obviously I had a lot more access. You're looking and you have guys that, you have numbers that you have to have, right? Like if I'm running a 3-4 versus a 4-3, I have, that determines how many linebackers, how many D linemen I'm going to keep on there, right? But that's the top line. Then you get to the bottom of each one of those lines where we could either take an extra D lineman or say an extra linebacker, right? Do you know where that decision is made? They turn, right, on any of those borderline positions, guys who are right at the line, and they look to the special teams coach and they say, Coach, who can you use? And the special teams coach will answer, this guy I use on this, this, and this. That guy, he's not really, I can't use him. That comment right there determines a lot of the times who will be above the line and who's under the cut line. And so
I think that's great feedback. And I think it's so important for players to realize that we only have 6 minutes left in the podcast. Time goes super fast. I do not want to.
You froze.
I want to ask you, best coach you ever had or characteristics of an excellent coach?
Wow, I've been around so many good coaches, but I'm going to use one of my favorite coaches who does all my camps with me now, Anthony Stone, as an example. He was my favorite coach to play for. He was my 2010 U.S. national team coach, defensive coordinators, and he made everything right. We had, like, when he was doing the breakdowns of our opponents, like, I still remember 7 and 11, right? And I don't remember their names because he called them the twins. They were basically interchangeable, right? 7 and 11 for Team Finland were Venom and Viper. And if we could shut down Venom and Viper, we would win. And Venom and Viper were basically interchangeable. They were really fast. All of these things, they could hit you quickly, right? And he obviously he had specific things to use against Venom and Viper. But we knew, and I still remember, that was the key to shutting down their offense. And I loved his approach on that because me as a player, I was one who liked to ask a lot of questions. And some coaches take that as like, oh, well, she's just being difficult. No, I'm not being difficult. I just want to know, right? Like I that's how my brain works. I want to know. And every question I ever asked Stone, he was so excited to answer. He was like, oh, that's such a good question. Da, 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 da. And I remember after we was one of my best. I had a sack for a loss that was like, I think it was the biggest sack for the loss in all of the tournament. He looked at me and he goes, Welter, you know what my biggest problem with you is? And I was like, no, coach. And he goes, I should have blitzed you more. I'm an idiot. And he walks away, right? And the same guy is, he's the guy who runs all my camps with me. I know he is my fiercest defender, whether it's as a player or as a fellow coach. And even when I went to as the head coach of the national team, I had the honor of going over there to be ambassadors of the game with two of the best coaches I had ever played with. And that was my USA head coach, John Konecki, and Anthony Stone. And it was their idea, really, that I was the head coach. And they said, the women need you. And they need you to be up front. We need you to be the one who handles the political decisions. We're great football guys, but we're not great at that. And we will back you and do whatever you need us to do if you will do that with us. And I wouldn't have had the confidence to be a head coach without knowing that I had two of the very best coaches I had ever played for have my back in that way. And they're still like that today. They would say the same thing if you had the opportunity to interview them. So I'll give you Konecki and Stone.
I love it. I love it. I want to take just a moment to remind our listeners that you're listening to the Legacy After the Locker Room podcast with today's guest, Dr. Jen Welter. Jen, I'm going to ask you to hold up that Play Big book one more time. The Legacy After the Locker Room is so proud to partner with Special Olympics and ask each one of our guests to please make a donation to Special Olympics. Jen is donating an autographed copy of her book, Play Big, to Special Olympics. Jen, I want to say thank you so much for making a difference, for really being a legend.
I will, and I will, and I'll actually up the ante for you since I have new books, and these would be great for the kids in the Special Olympics. We have our Critter Fitter series, which helps kids get fitter through motion and emotion. And I'll donate you a set that you can either split up to, different kids, or you can give them out together. This one, Critter Fitter with Busy Bee, is an adventure in motion. So the kids actually move exercises. So you can see we have like the bunny hop, and Busy teaches them how to do it. So Busy is our motion bee. She just loves to be moving. There are jokes that Busy has characteristics of me, and since I wrote it, that's probably true. Busy can't sit down. Then you already met Tyson earlier today, and Tyson was the inspiration for this book, When a Ladybug Can't Hug, because Tyson has big bug eyes and gets lots of hugs, as you saw. But this book deals with just the emotional trauma of what we've all gone through now, of like not being able to hug our friends. And so it really talks about social distancing, and, we teach Ladybug how, she can connect with her friends, as we say, connect through the heart, even while staying far apart. And then the last book, which is obviously very important,